Do you have a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y and you're a little jealous of that screen in the second row of the refreshed Model S and X? Well, there's no need to be jealous anymore because I have two screens from Tilliard that will not only duplicate the functions of the Model S and X, but dare I say, it might just do a better job. These screens not only give people in the backseat access to key car functions, but these screens have the Google Play Store. And they also support Apple's CarPlay as well as Android Auto. Have I piqued your interest? If so, come along for the ride and I'll show you what these screens can do and what it takes to get them installed. Tesla Model 3 and Model Y owners have a choice to get a rear screen too, just like in the refreshed Model S and X. If you have people in the back seat frequently, or you want to camp in your Tesla, these screens are worth checking out. Now, before we get to the installation of each, let's talk about the form factors. Over here, you can see the 7-inch model, and here is the 8-inch model. Both have their pros and cons. The 7-inch screen is fully integrated into the car, where the 8-inch screen sits outside and above. The 7-inch screen replaces your rear heat vent and USB connections, where the 8-inch uses the factory heat duct and USB connections. In order to fit the 7-inch screen this tightly into the car, you need to sacrifice the ability to control the direction of the air back into the car. USB connections on the back will also change a bit on the 7-inch screen. However, what you get is a tightly integrated package that frankly looks factory. On the 8-inch, you get to keep the factory air controls as well as the factory USB connections, and you obviously get an extra inch size screen. You will also notice that this screen is more like an iPad raised above the back of the console. I really like how integrated the 7-inch screen is, but the 8-inch screen also gives you the ability to have a built-in external speaker, and it is a little higher off the ground. The 8-inch screen is certainly easier to see if you are camping in your Tesla and the back seats are folded down. The 8-inch screen will sit higher up and allow you to view what's going on while you camp. On the software side, they are about 90% the same. However, there are some key differences that I want to point out to you right now. Both screens support Bluetooth audio in the car as well as a set of headphones. However, the 8-inch screen has a wired headphone jack. Now, in order for these screens to work, they need an internet connection, and the 7-inch screen will require you to tether to something, probably your phone. The 8-inch screen also can tether, but it gives you an option of putting in a 4G SIM card to allow it to access the internet directly, if that applies to you. Unfortunately, Tesla does not make their cellular connection available as a Wi-Fi hotspot. Believe me, I wish they did. Now let's get into what this can do for the car. At its core, it lets you control certain functions of the car. You can activate the climate controls right from the back seat. You can adjust the temperature, you can adjust the fans, however you see fit. You can also control the rear seat heaters from the back as well. On the 8-inch screen, you can control the position of the passenger seat from the back. And if you're a person that's in the back and you need a little more legroom, or if you're camping and you want to provide yourself a little more space, you can not only position the seat front and back, but you can also control the pivot of the seat back as well, right from the screen. For safety reasons, you only have access to the passenger seat. The driver's side seat is not available. At its core, both of these screens are basically Android devices, which means you can actually do some pretty cool stuff in addition to controlling the car functions. Each one has the Google Play Store built right in, and you can install a wide variety of apps onto these devices. But I will admit that in my playing around with both of these screens, not all apps seem to work. For example, apps like the Disney Plus or Netflix apps seem to work completely fine, but I can't get the Hulu app to work. You can also install games or other apps to run on the screen, and you can use the screen while the car is in motion. There's also a USB-A port on the back of the 7-inch screen and a USB-C port behind the screen on the 8-inch screen, where you can bring your own media to play right from the screen, right off that USB stick, whether it be music or video. Now let's talk about CarPlay and Android Auto. There is an app on both of these screens that will allow for both Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto if you have an Android device. For me, I'm an iPhone guy, so here you can see CarPlay working and it would do everything that you would expect CarPlay to do. However, I will admit that the utility is obviously lower because it's in the back seat and you can't see it while you're driving. Now let's talk about installation. How difficult is it? Well, the 7-inch screen is very easy, but the 8-inch screen requires a few more steps, and one will depend on how important a specific feature is to you. Let's start by installing the 7-inch screen. Start by moving both seats fully forward to give you space to work. Next, pull off the back air vent. Yeah, just reach down and pull it off. It's held in with clips. It should pop right off. Disconnect the USB connection from the back. We'll need this cable later. Next, use a pry tool to pop off the lower section of the back console. Once off, you will see a data connection point. This is what we have to tap into. Use the provided cable and patch into the data connection on the car. The new cable will connect to the car where that is, and you have to disconnect a cable from the car to do that, and the disconnected portion will plug into the other side of the cable harness. Now route the small cable up through the back so you can connect it to the screen. Connect the USB hub cable back to the new screen and hook up the new cable to the new screen as well. Snap the screen back onto the car and snap the lower back cover onto the back of the console and peel off the protective cover and the screen will power up. Overall, the installation of the 7-inch screen is super easy. Anybody can do it. This is a very low maintenance installation. Next, let's install the 8-inch screen, and for this, the steps are almost the same and it's just a little more complicated. And there's one step that's maybe a little too complicated, but I'll get to that in a second. All right, move up the seats as you did before, pull off the back air vent, disconnect the USB, and pop off the lower cover, just like the 7-inch screen. Before we can go to the next step, we need to transfer some stuff. We need to transfer the air vent, the USB module, the clips from the factory piece that you just removed to the new 8-inch screen. You don't have to do any of this transfer on the 7-inch screen. You need to start with removing the air vent. There are clips on the side of the air vent that allow you to start to release the air vent, but on the bottom there are some clips that are really pesky and you have to push pretty hard with the screwdriver to get them to pop off. There are 4 gray colored sections. Once you do that, the air vent should release. Next, use a T10 screwdriver to remove the USB module. Finally, pry off the clips. Those were a little pesky as well. On the new screen, now do everything in reverse. Install the clips, put the USB module back in, snap in the air vent. From here, we're ready to go back into the car. Now the wire harness for the 8-inch screen has a separate control module, and to get that to fit, you need to remove one more piece from the back of the car. There are 2 T20 screws inside the lower cover that you need to remove. From there, the entire back will pop off. Just like the other screen, patch the data cable into the car. Connect the cable to the controller box and position the cables to go up to the screen. You can now install that larger piece to the back of the car and make sure you put those screws back in that you just took out. Now, before we want to pop that new screen back on your car, you need to install a special support bracket. And this is done by removing a screw and installing a provided support. This will be needed in just a second. Connect up the screen and the USB cable like you did in the 7-inch screen and snap the screen onto the car. Use the provided screw to secure the back of the screen to the newly installed bracket. There's a little small plastic cover to cover up that screw. Now this bracket is there to support the screen, and I found out that when you move the car seats back and forth, the seat itself, the cushion itself, will come in contact with the edge of the screen. I don't think it's a problem, but I'm pretty sure that's why that support bracket is there, to provide a little more support and strength to that screen. All right, take a breath. Your screen is working. The next part is by far the hardest part of this installation. You need to install 2 small cables into both of the front seats to allow you to control the passenger seat movement. The cables are labeled in Chinese, but using Google Translate, you'll be able to figure out which cable goes to which side. Installing these cables requires you to access a connection on the side cover of the seat, underneath the cover. I found the process of getting to that different for each seat. On the driver's side, you need to remove a T20 screw from the front of the seat. I'll admit that it is very difficult to get to this screw, but once removed, the side of that seat will pop off and give you access that you need to provide a connection point for that cable. Route the cable under the seat as best you can and patch into the seat. Like the data connection, the original factory connection will have another side of the cable where the factory side can connect. You're basically just splicing into the cable. Snap the seat cover back in and spend a little bit of time putting that screw back in, which I found to also be very difficult to do. Once done on the driver's side, you'll need to connect and do the same thing on the passenger side as well. However, that screw we just took out of the driver's side seat is 100% not accessible on the passenger side. After some messing around, I found that I could pop off the side of the cover from the back of the seat just enough to get me access to that connection point. And with a pair of needle nose pliers and some patience, I was able to get that connection done. And then all I had to do was just snap everything back together, and now I have the ability to control that passenger seat directly from the 8-inch screen. I will say that the screen will work 100% fine if you choose not to install the seat movement, which is by far the hardest part of this installation. So if being able to move the passenger seat isn't that big a deal to you, don't install the wires. So what do I think about these two screens? Well, the build quality for both is really good. I like how the 7-inch screen is fully integrated with the car. However, I like the added features of the 8-inch screen. I also like the higher screen position, as I think it'll work better for me as my wife and I tend to camp in our car, and having that higher screen should make viewing that screen and the external speaker a better rear screen during camping. It would be super nice if these screens could access the internet connection right from your Tesla because it has a cellular connection. However, that's not the fault of these screens because Tesla doesn't allow Wi-Fi hotspot sharing right now, if they ever will. For controlling the car functions, both of these screens do a great job. I will point out that the 7-inch screen, the temperature readout on the screen appears to be fixed to Celsius. However, you have full control between Fahrenheit and Celsius on the 8-inch. From a media, CarPlay, and software point of view, you have a lot of options with both of these screens. And I have said before, some of the apps on the Google Play Store simply will not run, and you will need to just experiment with that. But what I found is that most of the mainstream apps seem to work just fine. I also found that getting the CarPlay to work was just a little finicky. I don't know if it was because of the setting up of the hotspot to my phone or if that's just how it works. Now, if you have interest in either of these screens, I have links in the description below. And if you use the code IOWATESLA at checkout, you will save 18% on your complete order. Hopefully you found this video interesting. If you did, I would appreciate it if you hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you're interested in installing another screen on the front of the car in front of the steering wheel, check out this video right here to learn all about it. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.